right, welcome back to the show. Today I've got a guest that is the son of NBA Hall of Famer Michael Redd. So we've got Michael Redd II on today. And I found him on LinkedIn and saw some of the posts he was posting. I'm like, this is a young kid who's really insightful and all these like quotes of wisdom. I'm like, I got to talk to this guy. So I reached out to him and here he is. And I'm interested in hearing more about him. So man, welcome to the show.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So give us like kind of, we want to dive into your story, but give us like 30 seconds of who you are and what you're doing right now.
Yeah. So my name, Michael Redd II, and I own a company called Sword Jet Sales. Basically, we are a aircraft brokerage where we are in charge of acquisitions and also the sale of an aircraft, whether listing it or, like I said, acquisitions. And so I've been doing that for the past couple of months. I've been focused on the technology of it. And then going to be launching here in December, where we're able to start providing services. So that's a little bit about me. I don't play any more sports. I'm not going to college either. So that's a little bit of a spiel about me.
Yeah. No, perfect. We'll dive into all that. I mean, you've got just the research that we did was basically your LinkedIn. I didn't want to dive too far because I like, asking questions and being curious on here and learning more, but sure. You've got an interesting story and your story hasn't even begun yet. So let's kind of take it back. I know you played basketball. I'm a basketball guy, so I know that you played. So what did that look like growing up for you? You played basketball, and then we can kind of get into how it was being, son of a NBA Hall of Famer.
Yeah. So started playing basketball at an early age, obviously. Played really my whole life up until about COVID. About 8th grade. I was in 8th grade when COVID hit. And so I decided not to play my 8th grade year because, it's health concerns and whatnot. And I have a heart condition. So I'm, having COVID, that would be pretty lethal. So decided not to play my 8th grade year. And so I decided to figure out, a little bit about what I wanted to do a little bit. Kind of was just playing around, honestly, with it. Freshman year comes around. I decided to play in the summer league. And I was actually going to play that year. And so the coach, I remember talking to the coach. I was like, hey, like, I really want to play this year, but I also want to think about some things that I want to do on the side as well. And so one thing I do know about sports is you can't be half in, half out. And so I decided, it was a tough decision, but I decided to not play my freshman year either after telling everybody I was going to play. And that was probably the changing point, the turning point in my life, because that was the one year I say I would really intentionally try to figure out what I wanted to do. And so one thing about me is I've always loved aviation. I've always had a passion about aviation. I've not always stuck with it, but it's always stuck with me. And so during that year, I really honed in on what I wanted to do in aviation. I was reaching out to different people, trying to just, figure it out. Did I want to be a pilot? Did I want to be, an airport CEO? I don't know what I wanted to do. So all I knew was it was aviation. And so decided to play my sophomore year just to try it, have fun with it. After the year was over, great year, love the camaraderie, but that's when I knew it wasn't for me. And decided my junior year that I was completely done. And so that's when I ended up doing a sort of like a shadowing type of thing at a local FBO here in Columbus, and did that for 2 years. And that's where I got the experience, and that's where I got kind of the idea that I wanted to be in aircraft sales and whatnot. So it's been a rocky journey, but overall I'd say basketball was great to me. You learn a lot doing basketball, or just sports in general. You learn a lot. And so, even learn about team chemistry, how to work within a team, a system, because I'm a tall guy, so I was a center, so it also teaches you patience. So that's another thing, when things don't go your way, how do you respond to it? So a lot of lessons you can learn in sports, but that's really my journey in a nutshell.
Absolutely. And you were pretty good at basketball, right? It's not like you were.
I was okay. I'll leave it up to the people who watch me to decide that. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and you're kind of in and out too. So in kind of your formidable years in basketball, you're kind of in and out. If you would have stuck to it, like who knows what could have happened. But it sounds like you had a medical issue. Was that the deciding factor, or was it more like, hey, I feel a pull in another direction other than sports?
Oh, I think it was the fact that I felt a pull. I knew that basketball really wasn't my purpose. I would say going into my junior year, I had an AAU season. It wasn't great in the beginning, but then as I started falling out of love with the game, it started to become a lot less appealing to me. And so it was one of those teams too, where we actually were on the Adidas circuit. So we actually won the national championship. So it was the best of the best in the country on that team. And so for me to be on that team, it was like not loving the game. Like, mind you, all of these guys want to go D1. All these guys want to go to the NBA. That's their dream. That's what they want to do. And me, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be, in the FBO, talking to the people, the brokers, the charter managers, all that type of stuff. And so for me, the choice to step away from basketball, or even just like I finished out the AAU season, but I actually sat the last 3 tournaments because I was like, it's not fair to be in the game and not have my heart into it when other people are on the bench and really love the game. And so that was a tough 3-game stretch, like probably one of the hardest points in my life. But to answer your question, it was more of a pull to step away from the game of basketball. But the heart condition was a factor as well.
Yeah, which is to me, you're somewhat you're ahead of the curve, because even those kids. Well, first of all, kids that play basketball or sports in general, it's not even 1% that play professionally, right? So, and I struggled with it. I've talked about it on here. I played small college basketball, but I struggled with my identity probably, who knows, definitely in my 30s, maybe even mid 30s. I don't know. So it took me a little while to find the right pull somewhere else where you're ahead of basically everybody. You feel a pull into something that you can do for the rest of your life. Basketball is not for any sports, right? Can't be for the rest of your life. So I think you're kind of ahead of, the majority of people in that aspect. So obviously it's very mature. It's really cool. It's cool to see. So you did that. You went the aircraft route. Why not go to college?
So that's actually a funny story. College for me, I'm not really a school guy at all. High school for me was enough. I knew I wasn't going to college, honestly, after middle school, after freshman year. Well, I say that, but I was still trying to play basketball around freshman year, sophomore year. So, I mean, I was trying to go to college for basketball. If I was going to go to college, it'd be for basketball. Stop playing basketball. So now college is like, okay, it's not really that really important to me. And so I always have kind of I've always kind of thrown myself in the fire of things. So, going straight into business out of high school, like even when I was in high school, starting businesses, trying to raise money, stuff like that. I've always thrown myself in the fire. So this decision to go to college was nothing, or not go to college was nothing new. And so my parents knew that, and they supported me the whole way. I just think that for me, what I want to do, which is, aircraft sales and just overall sales in general, I don't think that college for me is going to serve me right. I think that being thrown in the fire, having that experience, talking to, salespeople, people who have been there before, having a mentor, which I think having a mentor is very important, honestly helped me make that decision a lot quicker and, and be a lot more calculated in how I thought about it. So that's really why I didn't go to college. I think college has a lot of value though. Even, if you want to be a lawyer, you want to be a doctor, a politician, which I wanted to be, back then. But for what I want to do, it's not necessary. It's not.
Yep. How'd your parents feel about that?
Parents were fine. Maybe at the beginning, maybe a little skeptical because, I'm trying to still find my way. Being younger, saying I'm not going to college, it kind of scares folks. So, but as I got older, seeing that, they've observed that I'm okay, and what I'm doing, a little bit more, I'd say, set in what I want to do. They're a little bit more confident in me, and definitely now, we'll see what I'm doing. So they're fine. They're confident about it.
Yeah. Well, I think. Listen, I did not like school. I'm open about that. I think it's good for some things, and obviously the argument is like to be a well-rounded person.
Right.
Nowadays, that's different. I mean, you can get a 4-year degree in chat, on Chat GPT within 30 minutes, right?
Absolutely.
So information is just flowing faster. To me, there's not. If you're going to learn something, if you're going to be a doctor or lawyer, those type of things are different. Go to school, but you already figured out what you wanted to do. I think 99.9% of people that go to college don't know what they want to do. And that's why they're going to college. They're kind of delaying that process. You already know the path. You already knew the path you were taking.
I'll say I was fortunate though. I was blessed, right? I'm in a very fortunate position. That's the one thing I will say is that I'm very, very blessed, blessed to have a network, blessed to have access to capital, whatever I need, I'm able to do it. I think that, a lot of people don't have that. So I think for me, it's a lot different than, somebody else who's, just a regular everyday, person, that it's a little bit different. So I'd say that I'm blessed. And I feel like maybe, if I wasn't in the situation I was in, maybe it'd be different. I don't know, but I'm playing the cards that I've been dealt with, and that I think it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
For me.
Do you think that's helped you become more clear on what your path is right now?
Having access to everything, kind of, sort of. I would say yes, but I think it also still has its challenges because, one thing I posted on LinkedIn is like, everybody talks about coming from nothing, right? Everybody talks about coming out the mud, hardships, whatnot. Well, what about the opposite? People don't talk about that, and so that's one thing I wanted to bring awareness to is like, it's still tough. It's still struggles. There's still fights that you have to, endure. And so that's one thing I wanted to bring awareness to. But to answer your question about like how, if it helped me, I think so. I've always been around aviation. I've always flown, I've always loved aircraft and have had the fortune to be around aircraft and around great people, and leaders and big thinkers, been able to travel. So I think traveling helps the way you view the world. So I think that a lot of things in my upbringing have kind of led me to this point, to be honest.
Yeah. Let's kind of dive into that, because that's one thing that I definitely talk to the parents that come on here. Think about it all the time with my kids. My kids have it way better off than what I did growing up.
For sure.
But I think part of that I still grew up a nice neighborhood, and the city we were in is one of the nicest neighborhoods. And so I still grew up well, but money was still kind of tight. So I think there's probably some type of chip on my shoulder for that.
For sure.
Or from that. So my thing with my kids is, how can I instill like discipline, hard work, all those things to where they can kind of stand on my shoulders, right? Like they still have that hunger. So how do you, obviously you've been through it. How do you think you have that?
I would say, humility first off. Anything that can be given can be taken away. One thing I've always understood and I've always learned, and my parents have always told me. And so just not taking things for granted, because, you're not promised tomorrow. So making the most of today. And that's really been able to get me through. I think also just the way I'm wired, man. I have a really hard time, hearing people that are in a similar position to me, maybe financially, to just want to sit on their ass all day. I really despise that. I'm here in my room a lot, but I'm doing something productive. I'm really like working hard on what I'm trying to do. Where other kids they're content, they're comfortable, they're comfortable using their parents' car to buy meals and to get gas. I'm not. And so that's the thing. I feel like that's a big differentiator between me and a lot of other, people, is that, I really want, what I want, and I also want to make a name for myself. That's the one thing. Like, to be honest with you, when I go to Ohio State games, or I go to, other events that were, college events, or even professional, events, basketball, football, whatever it is, the question is always, are you playing basketball like your dad? Are you playing basketball like your dad? That's the one question I hate, to be honest with you. Because I've gotten it my whole life, and, somebody's trying to make a name for themselves and step out of a shadow. It's like, just please don't ask me that. But yeah, I've always had that, kind of always had that edge and that hunger to me. I think, at least in high school, growing up, trying to make a name for myself and be different. Really.
No, that's cool. So maybe that's what it is, right? Maybe it's you're trying to make a name for yourself, and maybe that's what's fueling you. And I know, like, as I've gone through things, like there's different things that have fueled me through different periods of time too. But sounds like that may be your driving factor right now. And let's kind of parlay into that. So your dad is Michael Redd, who's an NBA Hall of Famer, Ohio State basketball legend. How was it and how is it kind of growing up with him? When did you realize, like, oh, my dad is somebody? Kind of take us behind the scenes of all that.
When I realized that, I was probably, honestly, not till I was like 5 or 6, to be honest with you. I didn't know the gravity of the situation that I was in until about that age. I remember playing, my dad will tell you the story. I was playing 2K one time. I think I was like 4 years old. I didn't remember this, but he did. 4 years old, he calls me for dinner, and I guess I was playing with him on 2K, and I didn't know who he was. So I was like, that was a funny story that I heard. That was actually a couple of days ago. But what was the rest of your question?
Just how was it with him being who he is as a dad, and kind of, obviously he's your dad, right? So it's different for you than the rest of people's. Just Take us behind the scenes how all that was.
Yeah, I mean, well, as you probably know, like a lot of pressure to live up to a certain expectation. You know, you have a guy who's so great coming out of this city. You know, because there's not many great basketball players that come out of this city. No offense to everybody else, but there are, but
yeah,
an Olympian, Hall of Fame, like, that's rare.
Yep.
That's really rare. So like 1 in 300 million chance. I actually did the math on ChatGPT. Yeah, 1 in 300 million chance to be in a position like me. And so it's insane when you think about it. It's like actually brought me to tears. I'm like, man, like this is like how blessed I am. But yeah, so back to the question though, like a lot of pressure. You know, whether from peers, you know, and sometimes you might feel it from parents, even though they're not putting that pressure on you. And so I've kind of had to deal with that. You know, if I'm not doing good in a basketball game, I'm a failure. Never gonna be like my dad. All that type of stuff. So hearing that growing up, it's like that you had to be strong. You had to be confident in yourself. And so there was a time where I didn't have that. And so I was blessed, but it was hard, you know, having to deal with, you know, those questions, like I said, of, you know, oh, you're going to play basketball like your dad. And, you know, when you say no, like people kind of like, you can see their faces like, well, what are you going to do then? You know, who are you going to be and what are you going to try to do? You know, you see people get curious, you know, and it was tough, but overall though, I think that the hardships that I went through, you know, being younger and growing up in this sort of environment obviously shaped me for the better. And, you know, just playing the cards that you've been dealt with. I think that's the main thing. Just playing the cards you've been dealt with, whether you know, grow up wealthy, grow up, you know, not as wealthy, not as well off, play the cards you've been dealt with and kind of just, you know, chug along. I think that's this kind of chop wood, carry water is kind of how I view it. So it was tough though. It was a tough thing.
Was he retired when basically when you can remember?
He retired in 2011 or 12. So I was about like what 5, 6, yeah, something like that.
Okay, so around that time, yeah. So yeah, you probably don't remember the grind, his grind, and, you know, traveling, all that stuff too.
Yeah, I didn't go to Beijing. I was like 1 year old, 2 years old, so I didn't go to Beijing. But heard a lot of stories about that and whatnot, and even like going to the Hall of Fame too. We went to the Hall of Fame this past September. That was a great experience, probably one of the greatest experiences of my life, because I mean, obviously, you know, not a lot of kids get to see that and get to meet all these different people and even just like know them, you know. So that was a very unique experience. Will I ever go back? No, I won't. I won't go back. Just because I personally, I can't deal with the NBA environment. I just really want to separate myself away from all of that. So even though I'm around LeBron James, Shaquille O'Neal, all the different people, I'm very quiet. Like, I don't take pictures with these guys. I don't, you know, not to sound like, you know, like cool or whatever. Like, no, I just don't, because it's like, it's normal, but also like, it's just not, it's not my thing.
You want to make a name for yourself.
I want to make a name for myself. So going to aviation conventions, you'll see me take pictures with people. Like the legends in aviation. Like, like I went to the convention, aviation convention back in October. I wanted to go to, actually more than the Hall of Fame, but obviously my dad, so I had to go and support him, which I would always support. So, but the Hall of Fame was amazing, but I won't go back.
Nah. We when was this? I should have wrote this down before, but we had a at the time he was a world record holder, youngest solo pilot around the world. That was, I don't know, year and a half ago. We had him on. I know he goes to, what's the big convention? It's like in Kansas or something.
Vegas?
No, like all these airplanes go in, like different airplanes too. I forget.
Oh, Oshkosh, in Wisconsin.
Yes. Have you been there?
No, I was supposed to go this summer though.
Yeah, I've heard that's like, if you're in the like anything planes, like I heard that's the spot to be.
Yeah, the traffic is it's brutal to get up there though.
Yeah, no, I'm sure.
For sure. Yeah.
One more question about kind of your dad, and then we'll kind of move on. Not even your dad, but with you. Did you notice, or maybe there was a point in time you noticed that certain people may treat you differently, whether it was kids or adults? And then if they did, how did you navigate that?
I think that you're always going to have to deal with that, you know, whether your dad's, you know, popular or not. I think, well, if he, you know, has money or whatever, like, yeah, I think that's a normal thing for a lot of kids that are in my position to kind of deal with. And I think that it's tough to navigate that, because you really try to figure out who's genuine, who's not. Yeah. It's even harder, you know, being a kid in middle school, trying to deal with that, navigate that, you know, because maybe teachers are a little bit, you know, disingenuous. So it's a tough road to navigate, but I think that, you know, even when I like go on like business trips or whatnot, like and meet my dad's, his connections and whatnot, I also ask the question, are they genuine? How would they treat me if I just came by myself?
Yep.
Those are the things that like I'm curious to know and then see. And I haven't seen it yet because I've really gone on the trip by myself, and so that's why I'm going to venture off and go on trips myself because like meeting these new people, like they may see the name, but they may not recognize what that name is tied to. Whereas if I come with my dad, they're like, oh well, he's a son, so I'm going to treat him this way. And even with kids though, man, it's you get obviously a lot of jealousy, obviously a lot of resentment. You deal with a lot of problems that are, kind of unwarranted. It's interesting, man. I think that I've had some genuine friendships in my life, and I'm blessed to have genuine friendships. But there are a majority of them, I'd say, has probably been a little bit skewed because of the name and just I don't know, that I guess the family I come from. It's unfair to me. Somebody was born and I didn't ask to have this life. I didn't ask for it, so. For people to, bring up like you're never gonna be your dad or like you're just a spoiled brat or whatever, like, okay, I mean, where are those comments really coming from? And it's really jealousy, right?
100%.
Why is it not me? Why is it him instead of me? Like even people ask me like, if I had, or they tell me like, if I had your height, man, I'd be on going to the league. Or if I had your height, like, why are you not playing basketball? Why are you not using your height? And I just look at them like, man, like, well, this is why you're not me. Right. Like this is why you're not in my position. If I had your money and I had the connections, then I would be flaunting it and I would be wearing all the designer I want. That's why you're not me, because it's a humility thing, man. I'm very quiet and I'm very reserved. I like to be like in the shadows, to be honest with you. I don't like to be out and loud and proud and saying, hey, my dad is this, this, and this. I don't do any of that. I want people to know me for me. And so, people who tell me, that they want to be sort of, they would like, if they were in my position, they would be loud about it and tell everybody, and flex. Well, that kind of shows the type of person they are.
Yep.
It really does.
Well, and obviously it can be a gift and a curse. And my guess is you've probably become, listen, you're super mature for your age. You can probably, a skill that you've probably acquired is being able to read people. And that's going to help you with what you're trying to do and where you're going for sure. Cause you're going to have doors that open for you. Right. Sure. And maybe some will be good, some will be bad, but my guess is you're probably really good at reading people. And that's all from this. Right. So yeah, I think you're going to get a lot of good things out of it. Obviously there's some things that you probably don't want to deal with, but at the end of the day, like it's all going to help you.
Yeah, for sure. It's life.
Yeah. So, in school, you said you got you're kind of like an intern, right?
Sort of. Yeah. Ish. I don't really call it that, but yeah, it's more of like a shadow type of role, just like roaming around type of thing.
Well, yeah. What was that like? How'd you get that and what'd you do?
Yeah. So interesting enough, this is actually, during the AAU season, I actually reached out to the lead broker there, in charge of aircraft sales, and just sent him a cold email. I actually was looking at it the other day and just laughing, and I'm like, man, this is crazy, just from where I come from. But yeah, send him an email, very like just humbly, just ask like if I could, do something and have some sort of position in the not the company, but well, yeah, not a position. I would say just more of like, can I come in and just observe and kind of meet everybody and kind of connect. And, luckily enough, he welcomed me with open arms. And I remember having the meeting. I was around maybe 15 at the time, about to turn 16. Parents had to drive me to the airport. I was wearing some nice like polo, whatnot. And I had a meeting with, the guy, the head of charter management, and also the lead broker. And I was so nervous. Armpits were sweating. I was like, oh my gosh, like this could be a make or break type of situation. And they welcomed me with open arms. We talked for about an hour just about aviation, what I wanted to get into. And so I ended up shadowing mainly the head of charter and management, just figuring out like just learning about the charter side, the management side, what does it take to manage an aircraft, charter, dealing with clients. I've heard it all, and even from the broker standpoint, learning how transactions work. So I was doing that for about two years. I would say maybe a year and some change, like consistently, but then for around 2 years, I actually just went yesterday. Just to visit everybody. But it's such a family environment, man. Like now they all know me. I can come in and grab cookies whenever I want. Like it's one of those things. Like I was listening to interviews yesterday, like I'm just like, it's kind of a family environment. And now that I've been there for 2 years, everybody's seen my face. It's like, I've been welcomed into that family. And so super grateful for that opportunity. I think that it really changed the way I think about aviation, but also just like my approach to life, like being able to see a Gulfstream G650, which is one of the most prestigious aircraft that you can really buy the private jet. Like seeing that in person, to being able to go inside of it, it flipped the switch. And that's when I knew, like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get this aircraft. And whether it's in aviation, whatever it is, which I think is definitely going to be in aviation, then I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. And so, like I said, super great for that experience. Taught me a lot. Just about, aviation. Like I had a good base level about, aircraft and weather and all that type of stuff, but not the operations, which I was really fascinated by. And so taking that time and them taking the time to invest in me, and have me, observe and roam around, has been a blessing for sure.
Yeah. It's, you kind of glossed over it, but it's so powerful. You were 15 years old and you reached out to a company that you knew that you had interest in, and it's an adult, right? There's not even 0.1% of kids that'll do that. 15 reach out and just say, hey, can I come learn? Right. That's for like anyone to learn from, right? Just ask. People love helping people, right? Sure. Especially if, like, for him, he can kind of be a mentor. People love doing that. Especially, people kind of in, I won't say higher up positions, but yeah, people want to bring younger generations along and teach them. So just reaching out, like, there's so much power. And obviously that's not just for this position, but anything else. Like, if you need something, like, you got to reach out to people. You got to talk to people. And
100%. And I didn't know that I would end up 2 years later starting my own aircraft brokerage. You don't know. I went into that. I remember, I kid you not, going into that, the fixed base operator, FBO, and not knowing anything. I was like my mind just went blank. I was like, I have no idea how this is going to go. I'm just going to trust God in the process, and we're going to figure this out. And lo and behold, 2 years later, I'm connected to everybody in the FBO, and I'm starting my own brokerage. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
It's real.
So how did that happen? Why not work for them? And then how did you start your own?
Yeah. So, the reason why I didn't really decide to work anywhere, I've never been a traditional job guy. I've always kind of wanted to start my own thing, whether it's in AI, whether it's, I had a model airplane business where I was selling model aircraft, and now this brokerage. Like, I've always been an entrepreneur at heart, I feel like. And so I feel like that the principle of a job and working the hardest, but not getting the most amount of money and the biggest return, and still having to have a schedule where you clock in, clock out, never was appealing to me. Just because, I've been around, ultra high net worth individuals my whole life, and they, poured into me. And so having, being able to execute that knowledge to my own business is more appealing than obviously having a job. Because if you're at a brokerage, and you sell an aircraft, you're probably getting maybe 10 to 20% of that commission. And so that's that with broker fees and all of that too. So it's not much that you get working somewhere. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to just, like I said, throw myself in the fire and learn and do it myself and have that mentor. So never decided to get a traditional job or even work at a brokerage for that reason. But I do advise people to definitely intern somewhere, or just be like a market researcher if you're in the aviation industry. But if you're not in the aviation industry, I would definitely recommend, for whatever profession that you want to be in, definitely just shadow somewhere. If you don't want to start your own thing, or you do, then I would definitely just shadow first, and then get a feel for maybe a year or so, and then venture off to do your own thing if that's what you want to do. Yeah. But yeah, regular jobs never been that appealing to me, just because I've always been entrepreneur at heart.
Which is awesome to know at such a young age. Yeah, you're speaking my love language. I think. Sure. I don't think I knew I was an entrepreneurial or entrepreneur till, I don't know. I in my 30s, mid 30s, I'm like, yeah, I'm not right to work for somebody. Yeah. But yeah, 15 there, I had no idea. I didn't know.
But I sound crazy saying that though. If I told an adult that at 15, I sound crazy. So it's like, you kind of have to figure out how do you convey that message.
Yeah. Some people may think crazy. Some people think no, you're speaking my love language. I love talking that stuff. Yeah. And that's probably why you knew school wasn't going to work for you. Yeah. School is meant for, and this is nothing against school or employees, but school is meant for employees. That's just what school is set up for.
Yeah, I agree. I've said that many, many times. I think it is. And I think there's nothing wrong with, when we talk about, as entrepreneurs talking about, it sounds like we're knocking school, and it sounds like we're saying that it's not, it's not okay to be an employee. No, I think employees are needed. They're needed. Like we need people who just want to be like employees and 9-to-5 workers. We need them. So I'm completely grateful for them. I'm thankful for them, that they, would want to pour their time and energy into something, something that I'm building and my vision like that. Like, so I don't ever want to come across to people that I'm knocking school because they are, it produces employees. But I agree with your point though. I think that, it does produce employees, and the ones who kind of, I wouldn't say the ones who are absolutely terrible at school, but I say like the ones who are terrible at school, the ones who don't really, care, but are still smart and still want to do their own thing, have that work ethic. They're going to be the difference makers. This is the way it is.
Yep. It is. Schools basically follow us, sit down, sit in a row. You can't cheat, so-called cheat. That's not the real world. Yeah, we could go into it. But basically, if you're an entrepreneur, there's a good chance you probably weren't great at school. Now, I've actually got a buddy that was, he may be my only buddy that's some type of entrepreneur that he was first in his class at Vanderbilt as an attorney, becoming an attorney. So he's like a one-off, but everyone else I know, it's like, no, barely got through school, couldn't sit there. Like, it's just not meant for entrepreneurs.
I would always roll my eyes when a teacher said, when you get a job, X. Like I always would roll my eyes. I'm like, when I get a job.
Yep.
See, is that employee principles and employee mindset embedded into the curriculum. So I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, man, it's cool to hear you how far ahead of the curve you are. That's really cool as an entrepreneur. So kind of take us where do you see your company going next 2, 10, 20 years, or you and your company?
Yeah. So right now we're trying to, venture in aircraft sales and right now there's an insane tax push going around right now where bonus depreciation, you can write it 100% of a jet off, in the same year. So right now there's a lot of people rushing to buy a jet right now because a lot of people have, the higher ups have a big tax bill. And so what do you do with, that money? Do you invest it in whatever or a jet? And so our job is to kind of convince them to invest it in the jet. And so if it works for the client. But where I see myself in the company in 10 years, I would say let's do 10 years. 10 years, definitely. I'd say one of the biggest brokerages in the country or in the world, honestly, in the world. Just from the infrastructure that we're planning right now with AI technology. But also I see myself having a fleet of aircraft that I'm chartering out or doing fractional ownership with, which is basically like people own shares of the aircraft. And owning my own fleet. That's the goal, is owning my own fleet. So that's what I'm working towards right now today. But where I see myself in 10 years, where I'll be what? I'll be 28. Yeah. Obviously I think successful, but still want more and still want to attack. Don't know exactly where I'm gonna be in 10 years. But I do know I'm gonna be in a lot better position than where I'm at today. And hopefully, going to create one of the biggest, I say, management companies and even brokerages in the world.
Yeah, no, it's awesome, dude. It actually gives me goosebumps hearing you say that, because I don't know. I don't know if I know anybody that would, especially at your age, that would say that so-called publicly, right? It is just you and I talking, but other people.
Right. Obviously, people who listen,
yeah. So to put that out in the world is absolutely, it's so powerful and it's so rare too. So yeah, man, kudos to you for just sharing that, because most people would not share that even if they felt it. So it's absolutely awesome, man.
Gotta let it be known, man. You gotta let it be known. It's I'm looking forward to what's going to happen in the future. Even with our strategy going into 2026. So it's looking really bright. And it's crazy how this started too. Like, it was a technology company at first, really. Well, I'd say it was a brokerage at first. It was going to be just a traditional broker, because I didn't really talk about how it started. It was a traditional brokerage at first, where I was going to just, after I graduated high school, I just wanted to start to sell jets. But what I realized is that really there's no difference between my workflow and the biggest brokerages in the world's workflow, except for the fact that they have a bigger brand, bigger reputation. And right now, little old me is not going to outbrand these other big companies that have been around for 30 years, since the dawn of private aviation. And so one thing I, picked up on and realized that, okay, maybe I can't be bigger, than them or more reputable, but what I can be is faster and more efficient. And also I have just better margins, period. So what does that mean? Implementing the technology and AI because right now this industry is very antiquated. That's just most industries, very antiquated. Same thing in real estate, really very antiquated. So capitalizing on that, giving ourselves that first mover advantage, and just the because we're, I'm younger, have a lot of energy. This industry that I'm in right now has a lot of, old guys and people who are apprehensive to tech and, are not trying to change their ways because it's always been done the same way for 30 years. And the problem doesn't, I would say their workflow is not necessarily bad either. It's just the fact that it's a little bit, it can be a little bit more efficient, and it works for them though. So they're not going to change it if it works, right? You hear the what's the term? If your jump shot's not broke, don't fix it. Or I don't know the term. I forget what it is. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Yeah, something like that. I don't know how I lost that, but yeah. And then around the summertime, I ventured into the technology solely. So I was going to create just like a SaaS company and kind of help other brokerages instead of helping doing it myself. And then about maybe a month ago, I decided, you know what? I want to just be a broker. I don't want to be the SaaS founder. I hate raising money. Series A, Series B, I can't do it. No. It's just not me. So, having these type of conversations face to face or virtually and with clients is what I want to do. So I decided to take a step back and decided to just do my own brokerage again.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I can't wait to see what you do with it. I'm excited to follow you. Are you anything else we missed or you want to share?
I think we're good. I think I'm just excited for the future. Thank you for having me again on the podcast. Keep a lookout. We're launching in December. So
yeah. I was gonna say, if people want to reach out to you, obviously talk planes or anything else, how can they find you?
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn at I think it's Michael Red with the two I's, the Roman numeral, and then I used to be on Instagram, which I'll get back to it in a minute. But you want to find me on Instagram, it'll be Michael Red with the two I's, and then also TikTok is also the same thing. We can talk whatever, and I'm definitely be open to chatting away. That'd be awesome.
Awesome, man. Well, appreciate you coming on again. I can't say enough. It's really cool to see you doing this at such a young age, especially with the mindset and where you're going. It's going to be awesome to watch. So again, appreciate you coming on. And guys, next time.
Thanks for following, subscribing, and listening to this episode of the Do More podcast hosted by John Farling. To learn more or ask questions, go to l4investing.com.